Okay, Chaplain Nan, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you now.
All right. So, if we could go back to number 6, the
Okay.
section number 6,
All right. All right, I'm there.
you said, do not aspire to minimum wage or entry level jobs.
Mm-hmm.
These get rolled over by technology and are truly dead end. Maybe could you give our listeners example of what those jobs might look like or what those jobs might be that you're talking about?
Well, golly, yeah. I mean, they're kind of everywhere. I can give you certainly a dated example, and we can talk about others also. But back as late as the 1960s, let's say, in corporations, just to look at them as an example, there were literally rooms full of people who manually kept the financial ledgers for those corporations. And when month-end closing of the books came, those people would work numerous hours of overtime to get the books put together so that early the next month, the executives would have the financial results of the company in that previous month. Well, computers and software have replaced all of those people. Those jobs in large corporations don't exist anymore. And in fact, even in the small business world, for any business that's over $100,000 a year in revenue, everybody's using software to accomplish that financial reconciliation task that literally, rooms full of people would be at work doing that. Mm-hmm. In the more modern world, we encounter this every day when we go out shopping. Just as an example, I was at Publix this morning. I did self-checkout. Okay? Gosh, if you look at pictures of the old Woolworth stores or other types of retail outlets like that, they had long rows of checkout lanes, particularly to handle peak traffic on the weekends or during holiday seasons or things like that. Well, in many cases now, in big box stores, the big grocery stores, and such, the number of self-checkout kiosks or lanes vastly outnumbers the number of manned checkout lanes, and that's because the automation is such that in many cases that's the more efficient way to do it, and in fact many customers like that option better than the old manual checkout option, and so automation makes it happen. There's numerous other types of examples. Researchers, kind of entry-level researching to get information and the like to fulfill specific requests, say in a company. Well, all of that can be done by common search engines like Google or Firefox, and increasingly that kind of searching is being taken over by AI capabilities, which can provide even faster results than the standard browsers, as well as more comprehensive results.
So yeah, I was one of those cashiers back in the day.
Okay.
Paid my way through school.
Yeah, exactly.
The other question I had too was at the bottom sentence of number 6. You're talking about how to dress appropriately for your job.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question was for our listeners, with today's very casual work environment, what might that look like? So you don't look, so you look appropriate, but you don't look either too, out of place because you're overdressed or underdressed? Like, could you like maybe give an example of what you're talking about?
Well, I think, one yardstick that we could discuss is the yardstick of modesty. Outlandish outfits, garish outfits, not be appreciated by either customers, fellow employees, or the like. For example, an employee who's working in a tattoo parlor can dress in a certain way that is normal for people who work in those businesses. I would submit that that person going to work in a Saks Fifth Avenue store and dressing that way probably would stick out like a real sore thumb and not reflect well on the business and not make customers comfortable. And, while that person may not care, the business will care. And it's just going to compromise your opportunities, let's say, to advance in that job. So good, appropriate dress just shows it's another way of showing a willingness to fit in with the company culture, or the culture of a church, or the culture of a social club, or whatever public or social environment that you're in. It makes people comfortable with you. It makes people want to engage with you, and it's just another way of improving your opportunities.
That sounds pretty smart. So with all that we have access to, with all the media, venues that we have, for those, especially young people who maybe didn't grow up being taught or don't know what appropriate means or the words that you use, how might they, what might they do? What would you suggest that they do if they're thinking about getting a job, or they got a job but they're not really sure how they're supposed to dress? What might they do to help themselves if they don't know? Because a lot of kids grow up like to go to school with pajama bottoms on and slippers and all that stuff. So yeah, I saw a guy at the bank teller. He had what I would call slippers on. But anyhow, so, for those who don't know and they were never taught, what might you suggest in order for them to get up to snuff?
Well, that's a good question. I would say, first of all, maybe a sense of humility, that, I don't know everything. And so I want to present myself in the best way. So first of all, humility and the desire to present yourself in the best appropriate way. And then if you're interviewing with a job, as you're interviewing, observe the people you see around you. If you're interviewing for a job in a hardware store or at Walmart even, look at how the majority of people dress themselves and comport themselves, and maybe seek to emulate what you observe.
Okay, that sounds like a good one. All right, moving on to number 7. I'm sorry, did you have anything more that you wanted to add?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so number 7, about financial responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You said learn about financial diversification, compound interest, gold, silver, Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
How and where would be the best information for somebody who has no idea what you even said, much less aren't familiar with those terms, much less what it is? Where might they start their hunt for educating themselves?
Well, certainly, you can just go to the internet and, search for something like, what does financial diversification mean? And you're going to get a lot of hits on that. And I'm sure all of those will provide some pretty good advice. Also, you can go to the websites of various financial institutions, the people who market and sell funds, mutual funds, Fidelity, Vanguard, there's a whole bunch of them. And all those people will, when you do an internet search like that, they're going to have sponsored posts and they're going to advertise and come up in your search. And, they can give you specific examples of what financial diversification looks like and various strategies to achieve that. And then the same thing on compound interest. On the surface, compound interest sounds like such a simple concept, but it's an amazingly powerful concept for building wealth over time. And once you understand how it works, I hope it gives you the incentive to start using it as soon as possible in your life. And make sure that it's a central part of your financial strategy, because it will, over the span of 20, 30, 40 years, be a powerful tool for developing wealth. And then looking at gold, silver, Bitcoin, and real estate, these are tangible assets. That is, theoretically, you can hold them in your hand. Now, you really can't do that with Bitcoin, but you can hold the ownership of Bitcoin in your possession. And come recessions, come bull markets, come wars, come what will, these things tend to stick around. And, I can remember a good example in our life. We lived down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for several years, and Hurricane Katrina just decimated Mississippi in 2005. And although this real estate market was reeling from that because a lot of real estate was destroyed, the real estate that survived and was remodeled and all of that not only retained all of its value, it increased in value significantly during a severe housing shortage in that area. So tangible assets, just depending on your means, probably should be a part of your financial diversification.
Good advice. Okay, moving on to number 8.
Okay.
Controlling social media usage.
Mm-hmm.
You stated used to learn how to communicate, debate, and even argue effectively. So my question was, how is that different from all the online arguing, fighting, and especially in comment sections of social media postings?
Well, how is it different? I'm thinking of the approach. If somebody posts something, let's say on Facebook, just for example, let's say, oh my gosh, someone in the posts, I'm really concerned about the crime rate in our city. It seems to be out of control. I think somebody needs to do something. You can almost bet someone is going to get on there and in all capital letters say, "You're a racist." Now, that's not an effective way to debate or to argue with someone. And so, calling people racists, calling them homophobes because of comments or posts, and things like that, those are called ad hominem attacks, where you're attacking the person instead of attacking the message or the argument. And so, ad hominem attacks are a sign of weakness, because apparently you don't have anything intellectual to say to the person and their argument, and so you just resort to an outlandish attack. And so there's no power in that argument. And certainly it doesn't bring respect back to you as a person who, is someone worth intellectually dealing with. So I just think that wherever a person's skill set is at any given point in time, that using social media and engaging with people over time, you can improve your skills, be less likely to engage in ad hominem type attacks, and actually deal with people and engage with people at an intellectual level, and seek to either assert a position or defend a position in an intellectual type of way instead of in an asinine type of way. And like anything else, practice makes perfect.
That's a good way to put it. I won't repeat that word.
Okay. All right.
All right, moving on. Number 10, section 10, be honest in your dealings. You say tell the truth. So my question is, what would be the difference between the truth and what young people say, my truth? And how can you tell the difference? Like, if you really don't know, if you really don't understand what that means.
Well, that's a really good question. And one kind of stock answer to that question is read the Bible, because that is truth. That's kind of a stock answer, but it's really an important answer, because you cannot have a civilized society where there's no objective truth. The absence of objective truth just leads to anarchy. And there's nothing honest about anarchy. And so, for example, when you sign a contract, let's say to buy a car, and you want to finance it, okay, you sign a financing contract where you agree to pay a certain amount every month for a certain period of time until the debt you've taken on to buy the car is discharged or met. And I think most people, whether they understand the details of that and what they've signed, they intuitively understand that, they have to make these payments in order to keep this car. And so even though they may not be very sophisticated, they understand the honesty and integrity that's involved in doing that. Now, when it comes to student loans, good Lord, people are all over the map to the point of being absolutely indignant, to the point of violence, that you have the audacity to tell me I have to pay this back. I shouldn't have to do that. And of course, the obvious answer is why not? Well, it's just not fair. Well, once again, I go back to the old saying that life isn't fair. But more importantly, you signed a contract. No one held a pistol to your head to force you to take on that student debt. You did that on your own, of your own volition. You signed a contract. Now you have to live up to it. But it's just amazing to me that we don't understand, or a lot of people don't understand, the integrity involved in living up to that contract, that they should just be able to walk away from that willy-nilly. It just floors me. And so we don't want to be a person like that, because the Bible says something about, if you're not going to be honest in little things, you're not going to be honest in large things either. And I remember having a fairly heated exchange with a client of mine once. It was a business client of mine, and they were just incensed that their record on paying back their student loans might impact their ability to get a business loan. And, I just about sent them to the end of the Richter scale when I told them, in addition to that, if I was an employer and you were interviewing with me and I found out that you had skipped out on your student loans, that would probably affect my decision as to whether I would hire you or not. Because once again, the Bible tells us if you're dishonest in small things, you're likely to be dishonest in big things. And I don't want you as an employee in my business if I can't trust you.
That's an important one.
Yeah, I think it is. And again, many people don't understand how important that integrity is because really, once you lose it, it's really tough to get it back. And it's a long process. Okay?
That's true. My dad used to say there's one thing that it should be the most important thing to you because exactly what you said, it's almost impossible to gain it back, and that's your reputation.
Right. I had a coworker at a chemical plant I worked in once, and he used to talk about life in this way. He'd say, it's a long walk to get to the penthouse, but boy, it's a fast fall to the outhouse.
And so for our listeners who don't know what the outhouse is, I suggest you just look it up.
Google it.
Google it. So that's all the questions I had. That was really great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate those questions. And these pieces of advice that we're talking about, and we've got 3 more lined up for the next episode, these don't apply equally to everyone. But hopefully there might be something in what we talk about that might, give someone a new way of looking at things. And so that's about all I can think of for today. And so we'll cover the last 3 pieces of advice next time, and we'll wrap it all up with a nice summary. And until then, I pray everyone be blessed. Thank you for being with us today. Just remember, God is in control, and we know how the story ends.